Hey guys, welcome back to FHC Tactical. And on tap today, we've got another 9mm test. We are doing the Gold Dot 124+P. Last week, we did the Federal HST.
Whoa.
What?
What do you mean
Make a
you
video
tested?
here.
I don't care. What do you mean you tested the HST before the Gold Dot? No, it's trash. It don't say gold standard on it, does it? Use Gold Dot. Just trash.
So corny jokes and bad intros aside, we did have one of the local officers come in this week. And after seeing the test that we ran on the HSTs, he wanted to see how their department issued ammo would stack up against that. They've got, of course, the Gold Dot 124+P, and it's not the G2 or anything like that. It's just the 124+P round, which is the exact competitor of the HSTs that we ran. So I told him we would do that today. And as far as the test guns that we're going to run them through, we're going to have the same ones as we did last week with the HSTs. This is the Hellcat Pro Comp. And like I said, the comp is built in. So it's a 3.7-inch barrel, but with that comp built in the barrel, the performance is probably more like a 3.3, 3.4-inch barrel. So just keep that in mind. The second one is going to be the Echelon. This one's got the 4.5-inch barrel, just like we tested with the HST. And lastly, just like with the HST, the Armalite AR pistol, 9mm with an 8.5-inch barrel. So the test guns are going to be the same. I expect the performance is probably going to be pretty much the same as well. I don't think the velocities will be a lot of difference. I think the performance in the gel is going to be pretty much the same, but that's why we're out here to test it, to see. So the test we're going to do is going to be the same. We're going to get a 5-round average through our chrono, and then we're going to get our gel set up, and we're going to get 1 round each through it. It's down there at 12 yards, and it will have the 4-layer of clothing barrier, 1 layer of denim, 2 layers of fleece, and a layer of cotton. So we're going to get everything set up and get to it. All right, up first, Hellcat Pro Comp, 5 rounds. Here we go. 1203. 1202. 1209. 1200. 1215. That is moving on right there. All right, second man up, the Echelon 4.5-inch barrel. Here we go. 1288. 1288. 1284. 1275. 1300. Is that 5? Yep, that is 5. Last man up is the Armalite AR pistol, 8.5-inch barrel. 1387. 1414. 1412. 1415. And 1423. All right, we've got in out of the sun while we look at this real quick. Gotta say, I was really impressed. The velocities were quite a bit higher than I thought. On their website, the Gold Dot was calling for 1220 feet per second. I assumed the test barrel was like a 4.5-inch barrel, so that's kind of what I was expecting out of the Echelon. However, out of the Hellcat Pro, the average velocity was 1205. Very consistent. The extreme spread was 15 feet per second. Standard deviation was 5 feet per second. In comparison to the HST that we did last week, out of the Hellcat Pro, we got 1167 on the average speed, and which equated to 369 foot-pounds on our muzzle energy. That's quite a bit different. The day today is not much different than when we tested the HST. It's fairly hot out today, about 85, 90 degrees. Pretty much the same exact type day that when we tested the HST. So I'm a little shocked by that number. We'll see how it equates to the performance in the gel, but quite a bit more there. What is that, about 35, 30, 38, almost 40 feet per second on the Hellcat Pro. Moved to the Echelon, the average velocity was 1287, extreme spread of 25 feet per second, standard deviation of 8 feet per second. And if we look at what we got out of the Hellcat, or out of the HSTs out of the Echelon a couple of weeks ago, the average speed for the HSTs was 1197, so that's 90 feet per second difference on those two. And the energy there, the HST was 394 foot-pounds. The Echelon ended up with the 1287 giving it 456 foot-pounds. We move on to the Armalite. We got 1410 feet per second for the average velocity. The extreme spread was 36 feet per second, standard deviation of 12. And we compare that to the HST that we did. The average velocity was 1296 on that. So we're talking over 100 feet per second difference off of the HST. The muzzle energy was 462 foot-pounds. And on the Armalite, 547 foot-pounds. That's a big difference off of what should be comparable loads. Will we get better performance in the gel? I don't know, but we will see, because we're going to get out there and set everything up and get going. But that's impressive. First one up, Hellcat Pro comp. Here we go. I think we got a good shot. Let's go see what we got. All right, let's see what we got out of the Hellcat Pro. Try to get at an angle where you can see this a little better. That's probably the best one, but to be honest, it doesn't look like a really fantastic temporary cavity stretch there. It's okay, but it is not exactly what I was expecting out of the gold dot. Comes through into the second block, and just looking at what I can see from here, the expansion is I don't know, that looks like it's going to be a little disappointing. It had plenty of velocity. The velocity on it was 1170, so maybe a better angle here on that. We are at, I'm going to say 19 inches, because here's the other dilemma. I don't know. There's a streak there that it didn't travel that entire length, but it does look like it went to maybe 19 inches and pulled back, and obviously it's turned around there. So it could have turned around as it went into the second block. A lot of times that'll happen. Good velocity, good energy. I'm not crazy about that performance out of that one. Let's move to the Echelon and see if we get anything different. All right, next one up, Echelon. Let's see if it can do a little better in the gel. I think we got a good shot. Let's go down and see how that looks. So the velocity on that one was 1276. And to me, it's hard to tell in that view there, but that temporary cavity stretch looks a little better in that one. A lot of denim in there. You can see a lot of denim that it took with it, so it didn't keep it from expanding. And it comes down all the way to there, and again we get this track in the gel past where the round ends. We're going to measure to where the round is sitting, and I'm going to watch that slow-mo and see. I mean, sometimes they'll come back a little bit, but I've never seen them come back that much. That's almost an inch from the end of that track, but I mean, I think it did a better job on that one. The temporary cavity stretch to me looks a little better, and I know it's hard to see there, but it does look a little better. And the penetration looks about right on that. Let's see what that is. So it's sitting at 14.5, but it is possible that it went to 15.75 before it came back. We'll try to inspect that a little more when we open that thing up, but not bad. Like I said, it seems to be a little bit better than the one out of the Hellcat. Let's move to the AR. Okay, guys, the last man up is the AR-19 from Armalite. Here we go. Ooh. Got it a little low, but I think maybe it stayed in. Let's go look. Well, as luck would have it, it shot out the side. That's kind of the way my day has went. So we're going to try it one more time. Here we go. Yeah, I believe that and stayed in. So the two on the bottom is the two out of the AR-9. Both of them on the temporary cavity stretches, they look really good. Side by side, and it's the one, it's hard to see the one in the back, but the one in the front give you an idea of what it looks like. It's pretty much a carbon copy back there of the second one. Come down and gets into the second block, and we have got maybe 17 and a quarter inches. Just looking in there, looks like it expanded really good. All three have gotten expansion. The closing barrier didn't affect it at all. The velocity on this one, I think, was 1276. Yeah, 1276 velocity out of the AR-19. So pretty good performance. I'm thinking that we are going to see a little bit better expansion numbers off of the HST. These look like to me that maybe they aren't going to have quite the expansion that we got off the HSTs, but I could be wrong. We could dig them out and see. We've got everything back in the shop. We're going to get some final weights and measurements here and give you our final thoughts. This is the geek part of the video, so if you don't find this interesting, you can feel free to skip to the end, but a lot of people really like this stuff, as do I. The bottom row here, I've got obviously 6 rounds here. The bottom row is the gold dot that we just tested. The top row up here are the HSTs from a week or so ago. And if we go left to right, we have the Hellcat Pro, the Echelon, and the Armalite pistol. So if you look, you get pretty comparative performance, except for this one here. This is the gold dot out of the Hellcat. And obviously, the velocity on these is just going to take a little bit more velocity to get it to perform like it does out of the other two. And if we think about it, we got, I think it was 38 feet per second higher out of the Gold Dot than we did the HST. But looking between them, the HST seems to perform a lot better at the lower velocity. We'll get some final weights here. 124 grain, that's where it started, so we didn't lose anything there. As far as expansion, let's turn this thing on here. We have, looks like right at 0.50, 0.51, and 0.50 again. So it's still a good performer, however, just not going to be as good as the HST. Penetration on this one, it stopped at 19 inches. However, we had a streak in the gel that went to 21, and after watching the video, it did look like it went out to the 21 and then sucked back to 19, which happens sometimes. I just generally don't see that much, but it did look like that's what happened. And if we look here between out of the Echelon, out of the Hellcat Pro, you can tell it did not get into the depth of that round enough just to get that top expansion. So just a little bit less than what we would want out of that one. Let's move to the Echelon. Started at 124, we're going to end at 124. As far as the expansion, there we go, 0.57, 0.57, 0.57 again. It was right at 0.57. So good performance out of that one. The penetration on that one went to 15 3/4. We looked, and that one also had one of those trails that went past where it was resting, and after looking, it did look like it went to the full 15 3/4. If we compare that to the HST out of the Echelon, it went 16 inches, so they're right there at the same penetration. And as far as expansion, we average right around 0.61, 0.62 on the HSTs, where these are a little bit smaller, but you're kind of splitting hairs at that point. There's not going to be a lot of difference between those two on that. So, and this is obviously the HST out of the Echelon. All right, let's move on to the round out of the Armalite. Started at 124, we're going to end at 24. This one, the penetration on this one was 17 1/4. And as far as expansion, we get 0.56, 0.58, and 0.58. So another good performer. We're comparing that to the HST. It was right at 0.59, 0.61. And the penetration on the Armalite was 15 inches out of the HST. Here for the Gold Dot, it was 17 1/4. So pretty close there. I would say this is going to be a phenomenal performer for that length barrel as well. Here's the two sitting beside each other, the HST and the Gold Dot. Just not a lot of difference there. Both great performers. So final thoughts, what do we think? Well, for me and what I am looking for out of these tests, I am trying to find a round that I can buy for my Hellcat, that'll work in my Echelon, that'll work in my AR, that'll work in anything, any length in between, and I know I'm going to get a consistent performer every time. I didn't really get that out of the Gold Dot today. It worked well out of the Echelon. It worked well out of the AR, but out of the Hellcat, underperformed a little bit. If you're going to buy the Gold Dot for a shorter barrel pistol, they make a short barrel pistol round for the Gold Dot, and I would drop down to that if I was going to do that. But out of the Echelon or a Glock 19, a Glock 17, anything that size or larger, these are going to work great. They did today. I know this is one test. but I think it is a fairly good representation of what you're going to get. However, scientific wise, one test is not very scientific, but I think these will be pretty consistent across the board on those type tests. But that's what I think. We would love to get your guys' feedback. Um, we've gotten lots of feedback over our videos so far, and really good information out there. Um, if you like the content that we're putting out, make sure you like the video, subscribe, make sure your notifications are on, so when we put something new out, you will get a notification. We've got several more tests lined up for 9mm and 5.56. We're going to do some others down the road. We just got some new gel blocks in, so we're excited about what's coming. But more important than the difference than you're going to get between HST or Gold Dot or Critical Duty or anything like that, it's you. If you've got a pistol that you've bought or a weapon that you've bought for self-defense, make sure you're training with it. Don't just lock it away and think when the day comes that you'll be able to get it and use it. Um, if you can't hit your mark when the time comes under stress, it's not going to matter what these rounds can do. So like we said, just make sure you're getting out, putting the time in, and you know your capabilities. And as always, make sure you're getting out and exercising your Second Amendment right. We'll catch you next time.